Playing with Matt is what I think led me to what I'm currently doing. 1,000%. Matt is the best musician I've ever played with in my life. His philosophy of I want to fully understand the thing. And that's when I can play it. I find it really hard to just write a song in a room with another person from start to finish. I like to kind of have some ideas together and then separate, work on it, and then come back together. Going into a studio with a real drummer, putting on the headphones, and you have this incredible drum mix. It's just it's inspiring in a different way than being at home. This stuff takes a really long time to get really tight. So all of this technique stuff is over years and years and years. I think a lot of the prog music right now is very derivative of prog. And
welcome to Beyond Time Signatures. So today with us, we have Josh Dela Victoria. Josh, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing good. It's a nice sunny morning in Southern California. So it's a good start to the day.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm very excited to talk to you about a couple of things. So I think one thing that people are probably in the gray is about the fact that you don't exactly come from a progressive background or a technical background, but instead you come from more of a blues background and stuff like that. So if you can just talk about how your early days were and at what point did you cross paths with Matt and how did you start gigging and stuff, that would be really cool.
Yeah, since I was young, my parents were into classic rock, so they got me into classic rock. And then from there, it was just playing music with friends in high school. I had my own little group where we just go play a bunch of random. We'd make up songs. It ended up being a lot of Police inspired. We love the Police and love Slipknot, really cool, and weird combination. But for whatever reason, it was Slipknot, the Police, the Beatles, and this very guitar based music. But no, I was not introduced to jazz or fusion or progressive rock or metal or anything like that. And so then at a certain point, as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to play music live. And I think the obvious thing is to just start playing with your friends and go play in a bar or in a restaurant or something. Because as a kid, I don't think anywhere else really wants to let you play. No one wants to let you play because it's probably going to sound horrible.
So were you born and brought up in California?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So I assume you must have played around clubs and pubs and stuff like that at that time.
Yeah. I grew up kind of near LA, but not in LA. So okay. I was not exposed to the LA music scene really at all. So even though I'm now I can go do LA things, at the time I was definitely not in that world. And so then I started, playing in bars, and then as I kind of got into high school and my teen years, playing in different bar bands, and this one band that I was playing with a lot, they let me kind of do whatever I wanted. So even though we're playing a bunch of classic rock songs, usually the standard is that you learn the guitar solos from the band, So if we're playing an Allman Brothers song or Leonard Skinner or something, it's you got to learn the exact guitar solo. But they let me do whatever I wanted, which is probably not good from the audience perspective, but from me learning how to play guitar, it's great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me into improvising. But this was all in a blues and rock context. So working through scales and stuff and getting used to improvising solos on the spot was huge for me. And then afterwards is when I met like Matt and kind of got introduced to more progressive music and this whole world of odd time and fusion and jazz and all this stuff. And that's when,
Shadowrun.
yeah, that's when I broke into that world. So I very much come from like a blues rock background, when I think that most of the people that I meet in Prague come from like a metal and like
Technical.
technical background.
I see.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, Josh, like in your compositions, like I can hear the songwriting. I know, like, someone who plays the same genre, like this is not a good rep for the genre, but when you hear certain songs or like certain compositions, I would say you can get a feeling that okay, this is more technique driven rather than composition
Mm.
driven or songwriting driven. But it's not the same case with you. Like I can really feel the song flow from one part to the other,
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
without it sounding jarring or like repetitive, or like okay, these are certain prog tropes that are present in the song, etc. Like it's none of that like that. So and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that you played with Matt for a while,
Hmm.
and so I want to know that how big of a difference does jamming with a drummer and jamming with a drummer like Matt makes on musicianship of a guitar player.
Oh, I mean, it's playing with Matt is what I think led me to what I'm currently doing. I mean, 1,000%. Matt is the best musician I've ever played with in my life, and um, I didn't really like even know that all this like crazy odd time and like all this world of more technical rhythm was a thing, or at least I didn't like understand it until I started playing with him. Um, and then playing with someone that's like that much better than you is it pushes you absolutely. So like every time we would meet up, he'd be like, "Oh, I got like a cool concept." And then he would show it to me, and like in the moment I'd be like, "Oh crap, there's no way I can do this." And then he would leave, and then I would like try to internalize it. So every moment of my day is like either me tapping it on my like tapping a concept on my leg or something. A lot of this ends up being rhythmic concepts because he plays drums. But so it would be me trying to internalize this stuff, which I think leads to like my philosophy on a lot of rhythmic stuff now, where I want to internalize everything. I never want to be like
In the
guessing.
dark.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you'll see people like, or like I'll have students where they're trying to write some crazy rhythmic part, and then they themselves can't break down what it is. And I'm like, if you don't know what it is, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
um, so having this like this philosophy of like I want to fully understand the thing, and that's when I can play it.
I
Um,
see. I see.
and playing with him did that to me absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when I first listened to Victoria, like it's probably like a pivotal record for me personally to see like,
Oh, thanks,
where
man.
progressive music is heading at the time. And even the newer stuff that came out last year, like Chrono Studies and the few other songs, uh, every single time, like, I like it does feel like that, hey, the drummer also has, contributed so
Oh yeah.
much to this rather than just it being like a guitarist written stuff. And then so i I want you to like walk me through like the modern values era, like how did that
Mhm.
happen, and how was the process like for that?
That was a long time ago. That I think I was in my I think I like had some songs already when I was like about to graduate high school. And then after high school I was in college, not for music.
What did you
And
go to college for?
I have like a business undergrad degree.
Okay.
Um And then I recently went to college again, so now I also have a master's. But at the time, I just had the business undergrad, and so I was writing. I had some songs. He had some ideas. So one of the ways that we were writing together, that we still write together in this way. Um, some things start with like Matt has an idea. Some things start with I have an idea, and I find it really hard to just like write a song in a room with another person from start to finish. I like to
Okay.
kind of like have some ideas together and then separate, work on it, and then come back together and work on it. So one of the things that he did was like he had his drum kit set up. We set up a bunch of mics and he just recorded like a bunch of random rhythmic ideas. And
Hmm.
then I took that, kind of chopped it up into different sections and like made some songs with it. And then those were like the demos and then we re-recorded them.
I see.
So the song like um, Home was like that.
Okay.
Um, other ones were too. It was a long time ago. I can't quite remember.
That's totally
um,
fine.
the new songs were also written like that, where we went into a studio and Matt recorded like some ideas. I recorded some ideas, and then afterwards, I like constructed them into songs, and then we re-recorded everything.
I see. If I'm not wrong, it was one of the Nashville sessions, right, where you guys did that.
The new stuff, yeah, yep.
Yeah, dude. How does it feel like having a Nashville session? Because I've heard personally heard so much about it. So like, how was your experience?
Um, I didn't really think anything of it of being in Nashville, but the audio engineer, um, that studio in general, the East Iris, East Iris Studios, I think that's the name of it. Um, all those guys are awesome, and it's really easy, chill workflow. And then Matt is friends with them, so it's
Okay.
just like no pressure, very like let's just go in here and write some stuff. We have all day kind of thing. What's really cool though that I don't think a lot of people get to experience, it's a different experience going into a studio to write music. Usually people just are in their bedroom. I mean, modern guitar players, we're just kind of in our bedroom
Correct.
writing music on a computer. But like going into a studio with like a real drummer, putting on the headphones, and you have like this incredible drum mix. It's just like it's inspiring in a different way than being at home.
I see.
There's maybe like a little bit of pressure where it's like, okay, we're paying for all this, like we got to get something out of it. Um, but also at the same time, it's just such a nicer experience than doing it all at home. Yeah.
I see. Man, that's really awesome to hear. And yeah, the newer stuff was sounded like, yeah, it's built on top of where you guys left off last time. And
Hmm.
just the fact that like you're probably just right out of high school and you're exposed to like musicians of that caliber, like that that has like that's a byproduct of like where you are right now with touring with Sungazers, doing portrait stuff. And even I mean, I think I saw a YouTube video on Joe Satriani's YouTube channel a couple of years ago, where he had shared your solo on one of his songs. And yeah, that was probably that's how I got introduced to you
Okay.
personally. I was like, damn, man, like those legato lines, doubling down on the single note but on a different string, that's cool as f.
Yeah. Well, the all the modern value stuff was before I even played legato and before I was hybrid picking, which is now like that's how I play guitar is hybrid picking. That all happened after.
Modern values.
Yeah.
I have noticed though that after modern values, like the amount of times that you incorporate bending has reduced, and like more hybrid and legato sounds have taken up a notch. So this is just my opinion. I want to know like how you feel about this. It's like when people be it any modern technique, like selective picking, be hybrid picking. I mean, hybrid picking is not a modern technique, but in a modern context, legato, then thumping. One thing that I observe is, like, people practicing those techniques separately, apart from how they usually play. And I
Mm,
personally feel like, that is cool, but if we incorporate them as, like, our daily thing, that okay, this is how we express ourselves, that then personally I feel like, it's easier to internalize based off of your students and your personal experience. Like, what do you think about that?
it's absolutely true. So with hybrid picking, um, when I knew I wanted to do it, I learned about it, like I of the concept, from watching like Josh Smith, who's an incredible blues guitar
Yeah,
player, modern blues guitar player. I know hybrid picking's been around for a long time, but for whatever reason, it completely missed me, and I didn't really notice it was a thing until watching, or at least I didn't know it could be used that intensely until watching someone like Josh Smith, and then I was like, okay, I love how that sounds. I want to do that, and so I just started like taking stuff that I would normally play with the pick and force myself to hybrid pick it. So this was not like legato lines that were made for hybrid picking. This was just like my normal playing that I would, instead of picking the next note, I would hybrid pick the next note. And I got worse as a guitar player. So there was like a whole maybe like 6 months where like my time just went horrible. Like my rhythm just like completely fell apart because I was not used to keeping so much time with my middle finger. Um, and then, of course, when you're hybrid picking, you just end up doing more hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I was just not used to
correct.
keeping that much time with my left hand either. I was used to doing it all with the pick. Um, but so from the beginning of learning hybrid picking, I forced it to be a full encompassing, like, this is how I play guitar.
Gotcha.
Um, and then that over multiple years until now, and now I don't even think about it. It's like when I
Second
pick up a
nature.
guitar, it's just like this is just how I play guitar. Um, and then the thumping the same way, like very slowly built it up. I think this is something that maybe people, I don't want to say people don't really realize, but like this stuff takes a really long time to get really tight. So all of this like technique stuff is over years and years and years. The thumping, the hybrid picking. I don't do selective picking as much, so maybe not selective picking, but the thumping and hybrid picking, very slowly building it up over years. I didn't even record myself thumping until I played it, until I was doing it for like 2 years. And then I feel like I see like some students now where they're like, "Oh yeah, check out this thumping thing I wrote," and it's like it's extremely sloppy, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I learned how to do this like 3 months ago." And it's
I
like
see.
you're still working on it, dude. It's I don't want to discourage recording it because recording yourself doing stuff is also a huge step in how you get better at things, and being very objective about hearing yourself back. But I think like releasing music with stuff that you're like barely learning and it's like not tight, you should have a higher standard for that kind of thing. Um,
Absolutely, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, I still don't write with thumping because I don't feel comfortable doing that. Plus, I really think that, techniques like thumping, uh, and selective picking, like thumping in particular, is so percussive that it works extremely well under only a certain umbrella of contexts. Like, it
mm,
cannot be replaced by, other stuff. Like, for example, if we want to play a legato line with hybrid picking, there's that wiggle room for that. But, playing like, a chuggy pattern in with a thumping pattern, like that just won't make sense. So yeah, the fact that it's also quite context dependent also has a lot to do with how to apply that, etc., etc.
Yeah. I've been trying to do it with like thumping in particular. Like it's such Tosin's sound, right? Like Tosin really popularized it. He kind of brought it to guitar for sure and popularized it. And I think I when I hear other people thumping, I'm like, "Oh, it just sounds like you're trying to be
Tosin.
Tosin."
Yeah.
And I hear it with myself too and I'm like, "Okay, I need to stop doing it like that." What I've started doing more recently is like it's less about a constant stream of notes. Like I'm not trying to go like tucka, 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 like I'll still do it, but I'm trying to step away from that and have it be more like a textural.
Like longer
So
notes.
like parts that like I would normally pick, I'll just thump them instead because it sounds different. So it's not like a part that I could only play thumped. I could play it picked, but I'm just thumping it. Does that make sense? You're probably not gonna be able to hear this, but if I'm like it's slower, and I
Right.
could pick that, but I
Right.
think the percussiveness of thumping it is really
Okay.
cool.
I get what you mean.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, totally. When I heard the chronostatus tenet section,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, why have I not thought of that? Because I have listened to posterity for so long. I was like, it might be cool to like, do something. And then I saw you do. I'm like, if I do it now, I'm gonna be like, the second guy here. So I want to know, like, when you derive production concepts from adjacent or different genres, like
Yeah.
how's that process like do you like just listen to a bunch of like different stuff and like then think like, oh shit, this is cool, or like how do you go? Because I want to expand my vocabulary for production outside of the prog stuff. So how
Hmm.
can one do that?
Um, yes. So I don't really listen to prog. I listen to a lot of different genres. A lot of I don't listen to a lot of electronic music, but I do a little like Sleepnet and stuff are great, and they have a lot of really cool, more intense, um, like electronic production stuff. What I really love is textural things where it's like maybe real instruments, but maybe it's like mixed with synthesizers and stuff. And an example of that, I love the 1975,
I
and
know.
they have I think this kind of happens on two of they do it on a lot of their albums actually, but on two of their albums, yeah, they always have really long names.
Yeah.
um, but on both of those albums, they do this thing where there's like throughout all the music, and there's like these transitional moments where there's like piano mixed with strings mixed with like these weird chopped up things that are all like it's like a cyclical, very textural pad sounding thing, and that was a huge inspiration for me. um and I did some of that in the new uh in those songs that I released with Matt last year. And I did it a little bit in the portrait stuff, and I'm still doing it in all the new music that I'm writing. Um, I listen to a lot of the Japanese house, amazing production stuff from there. Um, I love Radiohead, so I think I try to
Classic.
get like all these like production ideas and apply them to guitar based music.
I see what you mean. I mean, I think that's how every single person who has tried to like bring something new to the table for prog has done it that way. Like David Maxim brought his Serbian influence into it. Like Tosin brought thumping, and yeah, I get what you mean. There's this one artist that I recently found out, Okelu. She's done stuff with Caroline Polachek before. I think her music, like vocally, it's not personally my taste, but production wise, like the synths and different layers in there are just really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, a good synth tone is very inspiring.
I agree.
I use all the analog labs, the Arteria analog lab, and it's a bunch of like models of maybe some like old school synths, and finding like just the right preset is like, oh, okay, I got a song here.
Yeah.
So,
In progressive
mm,
music, we put a lot of like an emphasis on getting our parts right.
mhm.
But is there wiggle room for showmanship for like technical music, as you guys play in portraits, or even sun gazers? I think in sun gazers it's more vibey, but in portraits it's extremely technical. So like songs
Yeah,
like Negative Space. I mean, you can't like you can't do all of that stuff, right?
yeah.
So I'm like trying to gauge like how much wiggle room there is for showmanship in progressive music from your experience.
Um, I mean, as someone that's played it in front of like hundreds of people, it's stressful, and me thinking about anything more than trying to play these parts correctly is a lot. So like, really, my main focus is like, don't mess up.
I see. But do you sometimes wonder that maybe you should like write a simple part so that you can do stuff with the audience or stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah. People have brought that up to me. My parents are like, "Why don't you write simpler music?" I'm like, "Nah, man. I gotta write this. I gotta do this." So when I'm writing music, I think there's part of you that's like, "Oh, when I play this live, I want it to be easy and I want to have fun." But then for me, I think the bigger thing is like I'm trying to express something,
Gotcha.
and I don't want me thinking about what it's going to sound like live to stop me from expressing this thing right now. So if I think it sounds cooler being more complicated, I will just make it more complicated and hate myself later.
Yeah, I mean, we all have that itch, and that inner itch, like that's the most important thing we need to scratch, and everything else is just secondary. So I agree with you on that.
I like the idea of it. Because I like going to a show and like seeing the band having a good time and like rocking out and having seeing a cool show. But like as someone playing the music, it's just so hard that I don't have any extra bandwidth to be like dancing.
One thing that people probably don't know about you is that you have been like doing video stuff and photography stuff for a while, to a point
Mm.
where when Clayton was on the podcast, he said that when he started out, he reached out to you to like get your opinion on how to get started and stuff like that. So I just want to like ask you, like, when you go for a product shoot, like let's just say for Iconic or for Abasi, like what are the key things that you need to get right for a product photography shoot?
I'm not doing it too much anymore. I've kind of switched focus to like filming
Music.
myself and stuff and doing and more music stuff. Um, but when I was doing a lot of photos for like Iconic and Abasi and stuff, I was not doing exactly like product photography. Okay, I guess that's like it is literally a product and it is literally photography, but it was much more like lifestyle product photography.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So it's not about having it all be an exact representation of like the colors that this guitar is, or like that I need to show every single inch of this guitar. Maybe there were a couple shots like that, but like most of it was um, a vibe. And for me, a lot of that vibe is getting lighting right and getting the set or whatever, like where I'm shooting the guitar, getting that right. So I've when I'm doing product photography, I always shoot it in the same way that I like shoot a person, where it's reverse key, reverse key light, maybe some kind of like backlight or like a hair light, and then
To bring
if
depth to
it's
the photo.
too, yeah, yeah, and like it separates it from the background. Um, like even here, like the way that I have my camera set up, it's like reverse
Dark
key
side.
because
Yeah.
the light is coming here, most of my face is in the shadow. And I try to do that with the product photography as well. So huge light source, as soft as I can possibly get it. Um, and then if this is too dark, then I'll either bring another light or bring some kind of reflector. And then at that point, it's just like getting just the right angle for the shot, just finding like those really cool areas. And like at Iconic, I was going into the shop where they were building the guitars and taking photos. And that was a really cool place to take photos because one, it's like unique. Not a lot of people have access to a guitar factory, manufacturing factory. So leading up the guitars against like the like a planer or like all the different wood shop equipment just automatically worked and made it look like it's coming from like, well, it looked like it was coming from like a, like a luthier, which it was. So all that kind of just, it was mostly lighting. And then with the Abasi stuff, it's also like, okay, there's lighting, but then there's also, you have to get this, it's a different vibe than Iconic. It's not as like wood shop vibes. It's more like this
Lifestyle.
ultra modern, sleek, almost like a car, but like a high end car. So that was much more like brutalist architecture vibes, really minimalist backgrounds. I I put together that whole well, I did quite a few of them, but I did the whole bass, the Abasi bass,
Okay.
the video.
Did you do the new microaggressor pedal
I did
stuff?
that too.
I
Yes.
love the halation on that. I love the
Oh,
halation
thanks.
you use on that.
The
Yeah.
relation, yeah. So yeah, the Abasi stuff is much more like a darker, more sleek vibe, which can be kind of tricky to do, especially when you're doing it on like a smaller scale, right? So
Got you.
like some of those shots of like the pedal were just shot in my room. I just turned the lights off and like had a light in a specific way, and I had like this camera dolly thing. Um, and then the stuff with Tosin, that was like um, just at like an apartment, but we just got like a black background and some creative angles. So a lot of it's very much like on the fly, but trying to make it look as if it was in this like other planet. Not
I
an
see.
easy combination for sure.
But I'll tell you this: the photos look amazing. Like it really suits the brand a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't find any podcasts about you before this one, so I
Mm.
assume this is your first podcast ever.
Yeah, I don't really do too many interview podcasty
Fair.
stuff. Um,
So yeah, thanks
yeah,
for coming on though.
yeah, of course, anytime.
Yeah. As we part our conversation, I just want to ask your honest opinion on something. It's what do you what do you want to see more in prog?
Mm. More interesting production and better songwriting. So I think
Yes.
I the prog that I end up not liking is usually made by people that only listen to prog. So I would say listen to a lot of music outside of the genre. Listen to things that maybe you aren't interested in, and see why it works. See what you can get from other genres. And then as far as songwriting, like this is all a very subjective thing. I don't love when the song is just like 5 minutes of a guitar solo. I want like actual parts. um,
That's a fair demand.
yeah,
Yeah. Because you want to feel something,
yeah.
right? You don't listen to music for licks.
I think a lot of the prog music right now is very derivative of prog, and um, I think that's why I don't listen to too much. The people that I do listen to are like Jakub Zatecki. I mean, I think he's maybe my favorite. He's so good. I mean, plenty of course is, he's the guy that everyone always refers to, like he's one of the huge guys in prog, but he's actually doing really cool, unique, amazing songwriting and production. And then everyone tries to copy him. But Jakub is, for me, he's the guy that I'm like, yes.
I can see why he derives a lot of his production from EDM and stuff. He's actually chilling in south of India as we speak for
Oh
some
yeah.
reason. He's been here for like 2-3 weeks, just chilling,
Oh,
hanging
interesting.
out,
Okay.
writing music, stuff like that. I just saw
That's
it on
cool.
his post the other day. So yeah, I totally agree with you on the composition standpoint, because the prog that inspired me too, and like even modern values and stuff, like it had good writing, and complicated parts were just serving as a purpose rather than it being the highlight reel of the song.
Mm.
So yeah, Josh, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. It really means a lot. I wish we had more time, but I mean, the conversation that we had is really insightful, and I think anyone watching this will definitely benefit from it, and also will get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
So as a parting note, do you if you have anything coming up next, like I'm very excited for the new portrait stuff, by the way. So anything about that new tour, new music, if there's anything as a message that you'd like to share to anyone watching this, I would love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I have new music on the way. It's big gaps between the music for sure. It's because we're trying to make it something special, and so we've got new Portraits music, not soon, but at some point. And then I'm going to be touring a lot with Sungazer. So I'm leaving next week for Europe, for the UK and Europe, and then going to be playing some stuff with them in the summer, and then hopefully I think the next step would be a Portraits tour. And so when that happens, that would be incredible. I think that's like what our next like goal is with that band.
I see.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you have like any message to anyone watching this about anything,
About anything.
about anything.
um, Drink good coffee. Try. Do put effort into things. All the best things come from when you put a lot of effort into it. So
Hell
there
yeah.
you go. That's
Hell yeah.